There's also a quick chat. I just want to take a look at the chat. Oh, that's you saying hi, Steve. That's perfect. Okay. Okay, so hopefully everybody can hear me, and just welcome back to the Financial Advisory Webinar Series. Of course, we did take a little bit of a break. Can you guys still see my screen as well too?
Yeah, I can see it if that helps.
Okay, perfect. Okay, just I know sometimes there was issues with somebody when they clicked away that the screen went away. So, okay, so that's perfect. So yeah, so thank you very much for sticking with us through this long 3-week break, but we're back to getting into this. So that's great. So a little bit about myself as the host. I am Tanya Hilt. I am a CPB and the founder of Cloud Bookkeeping Services and Tanya's Bookkeepers Bootcamp. I'm not going to go through all of this because you can all read, just highlight a couple of the more recent things. Anybody who is at IPBC or has been on social media will know that I was just awarded with the IPBC 2019 Professional Leader of the Year Award. Huge honor. Congratulations to everybody else who was nominated. It was some pretty stiff competition as far as I'm concerned there, but that's a huge honor. Our Bookkeepers Bootcamp qualified for the continuing education credits in 2018. We were also found to be Intuit's Global Firm of the Future for 2018 and a Canadian runner-up for 2017, and one of Practice Ignition's top 50 women in accounting for 2018. So there's, a few other things, but again, those are just the more recent accomplishments. So this webinar has been submitted for CEC credits through IPBC. They actually have approved the batch. We're going a month at a time, so there's no concerns at all that they'll be approved. It's just a matter of timing. So any of the August ones, we started to send your CEC credits out for the August ones before IPBC, and hopefully we'll have them finished by the end of this week. So any for this one, and then the one that is next week, we'll be sending those out. So after they've been approved, hopefully hopefully before the end of October. But it just strictly all depends on the committee with IPBC and what they've got going on in their timing of when they meet, because they only meet once a month as well. But they will, of course, be dated for the date of the webinar. So here's our schedule. Today we are honored to have Clarity. So Clarity is actually fairly new. They are Canadian, right from Alberta, I believe. And so that's great. And there's the schedule for the rest of them, which is all in your emails as well. And that is all that I have.
Sorry, Tanya, I'm going to jump in. I'd love if we were Canadian. Unfortunately, we're not, though. We're based in the UK. So I'm sorry to burst that bubble to everybody. But
I don't know why
honorary Canadians.
For some reason, I thought you were Alberta.
Oh,
I mean,
you would love to be, but we're UK based. We're UK based, so we're
obviously your accent is UK, but that's great. Oh, that's wonderful. Just a quick question before you take over, then, Steve, is which series are approved? The whole series is being submitted, and you will be receiving the certificates one at a time. So far, we've had all of the August ones approved, so that's 4 CEC credits. 4 different certificates that you'll be emailed. And then, as I say, IPBC has asked me to submit 1 month at a time, so that way they'll approve everybody in the batch. But like I say, there's, I can't confirm until they approve, but there's been no issues with them so far, and I've been submitting the exact same, and we're not expecting any issues, but it'll, again, just be within a month. Hopefully by the end of October, September's will have been approved and received, and so on. Okay, so that is all for me. I'm going to exit out of here and we'll let Steve take over. So if you want to share your screen and take over, that'll be great. And then just verbally give me a verbal cue when you want me to launch the polls. So again, just a reminder for the CEC credits, you need to answer, there's 2 polls. You need to answer both of the polls.
Cool. And Tanya, congratulations. Well, first of all, congratulations again for the award last week. That's phenomenal. It's a testament to what you're doing for the profession and what you're doing here as well. So thank you very much as well for inviting us to be here as part of the Financial advisory webinar series. So we're grateful to be here. And thank you very much again.
And yes, and thank you very much for agreeing to be here. And I know by the time I'd even heard about you, there wasn't a lot of slots left. So I really appreciate the fact that you were able to make it work for the slots for this week. So that's awesome. So thank you very much for that.
We're grateful to be here. So thank you very much. Just to give you everybody here a little bit of background, we'll talk about Clarity, but to give you a background about myself as a co-founder of Clarity, is I've been in the accounting profession all of my career. So 19 years since I left school, I've been in accounting, and I had my own accounting firm, which I sold in 2015, which was very tech focused. So it was a 100% cloud accounting firm, very focused on business advisory. The majority of our revenue, probably about 80% of the revenue of the firm, came from business advisory work rather than compliance. We still had compliance as well. But I sold that, as mentioned, in 2015, and started a journey on business coaching and helping accounting firms and other businesses to grow and improve their business using the methodology that I used in my accounting firm. I actually wrote a book about that in 2016 called The Profits Principles, which was lucky enough to go to #1 in the UK and #2 in the US. And that's what I've been doing ever since, really, for helping other businesses and other accountants build their ideal business. And then I got together with Ainsley Damery. Some of you may well have heard of him from Taya Bali Tomlin in the UK. And we got together in 2017 at a B1G1 conference and started shooting the breeze about how we wanted to help improve the profession and help the bookkeepers and the accountants and the advisors out there, to help them create a great business, but also help them to help their clients create a great business, particularly with the transition that's been happening over the last few years with the technology journey, as well as the journey from compliance only to compliance and advisory. And we realized that we can actually make more of an impact. To cut a long story short, we can impact a couple of hundred clients ourselves with our own respective firms. If we created software, we created an online platform that was able then to empower bookkeepers and accountants and advisors and their team to be able to help their clients, then we can have a bigger impact and a bigger overall global reach as well. So that's what we decided to do. So that's how Clarity was born. And the whole purpose behind Clarity is to help give every small business owner out there clarity, so they understand what's going on in their business, so they can then make the right choices to improve it or to grow it, if that's their desire as well. And the whole idea there is about having a better business for themselves, so that they can really build their ideal business. And the knock-on effect of that is that they end up having the life that they want, so they have a better life, and so do their family and their team and their clients or customers. And then the knock-on effect of that is as well, they help contribute towards a better world, because they've transcended their Maslow hierarchy of needs, and they're giving back. But at the same time, they may well be giving back as they do business, which is something that's really important to us. And what we did with Buy One Give One, also known as B1G1, is help to support the Sustainable Development Goals through them. So Buy One Give One is a global movement that helps businesses give back using the power of small. And when the UN Sustainable Development Goals were launched in 2015, what was really interesting was what Richard Branson said when he launched these was, this is the first time in history that a world organization has realized and publicly stated that it's not governments and it's not politicians and countries that are going to help solve these very ambitious goals. It's entrepreneurs and small business owners. So if you haven't heard about the Sustainable Development Goals, definitely check them out and have a look at Buy One Give One as well, because it enables you to help support your preferred goal or all of the goals if you want to, so that you can then help to give to those less fortunate all over the world. And that's part of what we wanted to do with our philosophy. Was always about giving, and my accounting firm, and we've carried that through. And we want to encourage others to do the same, just to help the community, the business community throughout the world, and ultimately create that better business, better life, better world methodology as well. So just to set the scene, so before we dive into the visualization of Clarity and how it works, and I'll show you very briefly how it works, but I'll also show you how you can use it, and then how to if you heard earlier when Tanya and I were speaking, we're talking about how you can structure this within your own firm and be able to deliver it. But before I do that, I just wanted to set the scene. So in the UK, and I know it's pretty similar in the US, that there's 99.9% of all SMEs are small. And that's 5.7 million in the UK, and in the US it's 30.2 million. And in the UK, they contribute to 60% of all employment in the private sector. And it's fairly similar. It's high numbers in the US as well. It's 48%, but the numbers are obviously a lot higher. It's 59 million. And from that, they also contribute to a vast amount of the turnover within the private sector. So it's 52% in the UK and 44% in the US. Now, the point of this is showing that it's how important and how big, if you like, small business actually is, because it contributes a huge amount, not just to GDP and the economy, but also to employment and to the local community. And to obviously the people that the small businesses are actually helping to solve a problem for. So small business is big business, but the big problem that small businesses have, and this has been the case for the past 20 years since I've looked back at statistics, it hasn't really changed, is that only 1 in 5 businesses survive, 5 in 10 businesses survive 5 years. So it's about a 50% chance of survival after 5 years. But after 10 years, and again, depending on which statistics you look at, there's somewhere between 1 in 10 to 3 in 10 that survive 10 years. So there's a big problem there with support for business owners to help them survive. But then that's just one level. We're talking about surviving. What about thriving? How can we help small business owners actually thrive and have a great business and have great customers and have a great team and really love what they do? And I know businesses that business owners, who have been in business for longer than 10 years. But the challenge that they have is they literally are just surviving. Making the payroll each month is always a challenge from a cash flow perspective. And being able to grow and improve their business is always a challenge because there's always so many other things that they need to deal with. So I know from a personal experience of some of my people I know that being in business 10 years, although they've been around for a long time, they're still not necessarily building their ideal business. So over my career, and over Ainsley's career as well, of each of us being in the accounting world and now helping small business owners via Clarity, what we wanted to do was distill things down. So we wanted to understand what the big challenges are. And from all of the challenges out there, they're on a big macro and micro level. These are probably the 4 that are the most important, and the ones that we felt were most important. If we could help solve these, then we know that we will be making a massive difference for small business. And so the first thing is business is complex. Lots of red tape. It's getting more and more so with governments and tax legislation and local councils and local governments putting things in place to stop the small business owners. Something like that in the UK, where they pay lip service, unfortunately, to what's going on and are wanting to help small business, but are actually hindering them. And they're not doing anything at the moment to help reduce that. And cash is the lifeblood of business, as we all know. But there's lack of cash and lack of availability to cash is a huge problem for businesses. If they run out of cash, that's it, they've gone. And the same with their data for their financials, that they either don't understand their numbers or they don't care about them because they've got other things to do and they got into business to do something else, not look at the numbers. But the information is unreliable. They can't actually make decisions based on it if they have anything on it, unless they have a great bookkeeper or accountant advisor helping them. And then they have no clear strategy, no clear plan to be able to build their ideal business and what to do next and able to do that. They'll just make a gut feel based on what's on in the bank account, and whatever fire comes up first, that's the one that they'll put out. Now, it's similar in the accounting, bookkeeping, advisor world that we have challenges too. So at the moment, because of the advent of technology and things like making tax digital, that it's actually putting downward pressure on pricing. So that's making it easier, which is great for accountants and bookkeepers and advisors to start businesses, but then they're able to compete from their dining room. And some of you may be doing that, which is fantastic because there's a broad range of advisors and bookkeepers and accountants out there. But what it's doing as a whole of the industry is the profession is pushing prices down, and meaning that the prices are getting lower because there's more competition out there. So there's more choice for the business owners. But here's the other thing. Business owners don't really value compliance. Certainly not from my own experience. They don't value a set of accounts. They don't care that the disclosures look pretty or that the tax return's been filled in beautifully. They don't care about that. You have to do that in their eyes. You have to do that as an agent of the tax authority or as the company authority. You have to file those accounts on their behalf. So they don't really value that because they see that as a necessary evil. What they do value is you helping them, which we'll get to that in a moment. And certainly the challenge that I had in my accounting firm, and I know Ainsley, my co-founder, had the same challenge within his, is that it's very, very difficult to scale advisory services. Because the people that you bring in, this is in my experience, people I brought in to help scale my business with business advisory, they left very quickly and started their own business coaching business because they were entrepreneurial themselves, because they had the right skill set to be able to help those clients. And I found it a challenge to actually cascade down the business advisory conversation to the rest of the team. So that was a real big challenge for me. We've been able to not only scale up, but also cascade the service down. So we'll look at that in a moment as well in terms of how we can help solve that. But with those downward pressure in pricing, then there's a need for replacing that compliance service. You know, in the UK with Making Tax Digital, eventually I would imagine things will be happening quarterly with tax returns, and then the business owner is not going to value an end of year set of accounts. I'm not going to want to pay for it either. So there needs to be new revenue coming in to help that accounting firm, to help them to grow and innovate as well and move forward. And investors and lenders, so they're the third wheel on the Clarity platform. Their challenges with small businesses that it's perceived as unreliable. The data is unreliable, doesn't represent a good ROI because the cost of due diligence is pretty much the same. And in the UK, VCs and funds don't get involved with businesses below deal size of £5 million, simply because of these facts. They don't see that it's a good return on investment, and then the cost of due diligence isn't worthwhile. Well, what we wanted to do, set out from the outset, was that we know accountants and bookkeepers and advisors have a skill with numbers that not many other people have. And I think, I don't think we realize that. And it took me a little while to realize that myself throughout my career, was that we have something that other people don't have and that other people value. So it comes easy to us being able to understand numbers and being able to explain them, but other people they don't understand how to do that, and they need us to be able to explain it. So what we're doing with Clarity is putting the business or the accountant, the bookkeeper and the advisor as the superhero of the story, because they're the ones who have the power to actually help their business owners, their business owner clients, to improve or grow their business. They're the ones that understand numbers, are able to help move that needle. And if we can move that needle just a little bit, like we were looking at those statistics earlier about the success rates, if we can just move it just a little bit, just to help a few more clients as we keep going through our journey, we'll make a massive impact globally on not only the survival rates of small business, but the actual success rates, the impact on their families and impact on their clients and their lives, and hopefully hoping then to contribute towards a better world. So that's what Clarity does in a nutshell. Is it bridges the gap between the small business owner and the accountant, bookkeeper and advisors, and then the lenders, funders and investors, all within the small business world, and helping all of those involved. So what I want to do now very quickly is show you how Clarity works. And just as a reminder, looking at those problems, on the flip side, here's the solutions. So what we wanted to do with Clarity is to make business simple, to make things as simple as possible so anyone can use the Clarity platform, whether that's a highly trained and numbers literate and business acumen partner of an accounting firm, or the most junior member of the team who's obviously a numbers person, but they may not have the skill or experience. And the same for business owners. We wanted to make it easy for them to be able to look at this themselves if they wanted to. So just as a reminder on the screen here, we've got being able to understand the numbers and have a clear understanding of them, and then be able to improve them, to have a clear step-by-step plan to build their ideal business, and then to be able to use that information to get access to cash and funding to either exit the business or grow. Because as we know, growing a business requires cash and consumes cash. So it's really important that we have the cash flow to be able to do that. So what I will do at this moment, I will stop sharing that screen, and I'm going to share another screen with you, and I'll show you Clarity very briefly. So the first thing that you see when you log into Clarity, so this is how we conceptualize the visual process of how Clarity works, is that you've got a list of companies, and in here, the first thing that you do is log into the key numbers. So in this particular business here, we've got a Canadian business, and we can see that there's the 7 key numbers here. So what we wanted to do again here was distill everything down into its most simplistic form. So here, with these 7 numbers, what we're actually able to do is to look at the P&L, we're looking at the balance sheet, the cash statement, and team efficiency. And by looking at only those 7, it's a quick snapshot of how the business is going. And each of these numbers tells a story. I'm not going to go into each of them now. If you're interested, Tanya has a link where you can sign up to a more of a full detailed demo of the platform, where I go into each of these individually and a bit more details. So you can sign up for that. I'm sure Tanya will send that detail later on. But for now, just to give a quick overview, each of these numbers paints a story, and they look at, some of these numbers look holistically at the business as well. So just as an example, revenue per employee, that looks obviously at revenue divided by full-time equivalent employee numbers, but that looks at the team efficiency, team capacity, systems and processes, culture and core values. It also looks at the revenue mix, pricing, marketing, and so on. So each of these numbers tells a story, and depending on your preference and your skill set and your experience, you can go into these numbers as detailed as you want. But the point is, what we wanted to do was simplify business advisory. And what our mantra is making business simple. It's also making business advisory simple. So with this, it's effectively gap analysis. So in this screen, we have the numbers which are now. So this is plugged straight out of QuickBooks Online or Xero as well, if you're using Xero, or you can enter the details manually. It takes about 10 minutes. You can use the annual accounts or management accounts, whatever you're using, enter the current period and the comparative, and then away you go. You can get to this same page. So the basic or the most simplistic view, if you like, of business advisory is gap analysis. So where are you now? Where do you want to get to? What's that gap? And then how do we close that gap and get the now towards the future? So that's what we've done here. And we've done it in a way that's numbers led and systematic. So that means basically anyone in your firm will be able to use this because it follows a way that accountants think, how we think, how bookkeepers think. That it's numbers processed as well, so we understand the information, and then it's easy for us to then speak to the client about it because we understand what's going on. So we can change this. You can see it's currently set to September 2019. We can change this to March 2019. If that was the last finalized figures, then there'd be another conversation, signposting to your existing compliance services, talking about bookkeeping and management reporting to keep that up to date. But let's just say, for argument's sake, it's August, we're in September now. Let's assume the August figures are done. This is what the August figures show us. And now if we just say simply, right, that's just a stick in the sand. This is just where we're starting. Let's see where you would like to get to in the future. So what we can do is very quickly, let's just say we're going to improve the figures by 5%, improve everything. Just to give a snapshot, very quick snapshot of what is possible with this business. So if we went through and improved those levers, pulled those levers, improved those numbers by 5%, it would mean that there'd be an extra 47K's worth of profit and 48K's worth of cash. Now, if you were looking at this before you spoke to the client, you would certainly be wanting to speak to the client after this, I would imagine. I can't imagine any client out there not wanting to earn more profit, regardless of the amount. Even if it was 5K, I'm sure that they would want to know how they could earn that 5K. And we'll come back to how this will help you in a moment. But from a pure snapshot position, we can see how things are working. And for each of these figures that we looked at before, with revenue, the revenue growth, we could see that last year was 10%. This year we put in 5%, and that's going to generate an extra 14, just shy of 14K. And it could be that you say, well, actually, 10% is year on year, that's fine. So we're going to put 10 in so we can then see that that's 27.5. Or it could be is last year was a complete fluke and really we're aiming for 4%. it's a conversation starter. This is the whole point of this, is that you get to play, or your team can get to play with these numbers if they want to identify which clients they want to work with or which ones have the biggest gains. But then it's a conversation starter, so you can sit down with your client, whether that's in your normal post-year-end meeting or your quarterly meeting you have, or whether you want to call a meeting because they're leaving, let's say, 45K on the table, that you just think that it's worth having a meeting with them, or a Zoom meeting as well. It doesn't have to be face-to-face. But the idea here is to be collaborative with the client, so that you can talk with them and get them to help set a goal of these improvements, these changes, so that there's something that's in between a stretch and something that's realistic, so somewhere in between where they feel that they can actually improve the business. Now, gross profit, this one for an example, we can't improve that. Let's just say for this particular business, so that one would stay the same. You can see that we've got EBITDA percentage, revenue per employee, and cash days, and so on. So you can see that you can play the figures individually and see what the overall effect is. Now, once the client's happy that they have a realistic but stretch goal in terms of improvement, and they're happy with the outcome, what you can then do is create an action plan. So click the save button, hit an action plan, and from here, what we have is, again, a conversation starter. So it's a list of, so for every number we improved, we've got a list of conversation topics. So there's at least 4 or 5 in each. You can see as we scroll down. And there's a reminder as well of where things are now and where things are going to be. So we're looking at that whole cycle of where are you now, where do you want to get to, and how do we bridge that gap? And these in here, so sell more to existing customers. Some of these tasks may be simple to you, and you feel that they're too simplistic. If you wanted to, you can delete all of these tasks and create your own. But if you were working on the fly, I know that sometimes I didn't always have the required amount of time to prepare for client meetings. So something like this I could use just to help me get my priorities right when I'm having a discussion with a client. But it's more importantly, it's for your team, because the whole point of this is to be able to scale business advisory. So that means we need to cascade it down your team so that anyone, regardless of how junior or senior they are, they can actually use this. So sell more to existing customers as an example. So if we've targeted a 4% improvement, what we're saying here is, well, ask the client, how can they sell more to existing customers? Or what can you sell, other things can you sell to existing customers? And there's a bit of brief information in here to explain to the team or to the client, if they were looking at this as well, in terms of what that is, cross-selling, and what upselling is, and then why, what's the importance of existing customers and versus new customers, and the cost and time involved in that. And the point of this is, again, they're basic tasks, but they're conversation starters. So it could be left in there for the client to do, and you can edit this task. You can add your own task as well if you need to. But the point is, again, that conversation, so that you're actually then speaking to the client about asking these questions. Now, you and your team don't need to know the answers. The client will always know the answers. That's one thing that I've learned in my journey, as an accountant, as a business advisor, as a business coach, that by asking the right questions, you will then be able to help your client get the right answers, because they know the answers already. They just don't have time to think about asking the questions, and they don't have that objective view to ask the questions. And that's where we can come in and act more like a business coach, and your team can do this and act like a business coach. So these are in here to help with them to be able to do that and start a conversation. And you can assign these to your client and to your client's team, and put deadlines on when things are going to get done. So the point of this is being that if you're creating tasks or goals and action tasks for your client to be able to complete, you need to be able to hold them accountable so they actually complete them on time. And by doing that, they will accomplish more and much more quickly. There's a study I saw a few years ago by Dr. Gail Matthews at Dominican University in California, that showed that if you had written down goals and someone held you accountable, this is a synopsis, then you would complete 78% more. You would accomplish 78% more than if you didn't have anything written down. So it's so important that we're giving this tool and this ability to our clients, and then helping to hold them accountable. And just as an example, if anyone in your team didn't know something, if they didn't know what a system was, or a client asked them with this particular one, what's a marketing system? I have no idea what a system is. What they can do is they can go into the Business University here. So we have a list of how-to documents, very detailed but simplified. So there's 3-step process on how to write a system. So they'll be able to give that directly to the client, or if they wanted to explain that to the client as well. And then to help the client from a plan perspective, what we have here in the document section, so the end result is a data room where they can share data with investors and lenders and so on, to help them to get finance and investment. But what we also have here is what we call the 7 key business assets. So these are the 7 areas of a business where we know from our own experience in business, running our own businesses and helping other people build and grow their business, that if they focus in each of these 7 areas, and if they then contribute to the subfolders that are in here, so on the face of it, it's just a folder structure. It's actually a framework for a strategic plan, because we know those businesses that have budgets and cash flows, that have KPIs and look at them, have valuations and are striving to improve those valuations. And we know that if they have core values and if they have a vision and a mission that they're giving back, those are the types of businesses that are more successful. So what we've got here that doubles up loosely is as a data room. As I said, that's the output, but what it is, it's a strategic plan. So you can then take your client through this if you wanted to, and they wanted to have more of a clear plan, over and above what's in the action plan, to be able to create the type of business that they want to create. So that's just a very quick whistle-stop tour. So we've got the business advisory element, the simplification of business advisory in the numbers section, and in the document section, we have that step-by-step strategic plan. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen again on that one, and then I'm going to bring my slides back up, and I'm going to share that on the other screen now as well. If you bear me one sec. So that gives you some visualization in terms of what Clarity is. And I think this as well, it might be a good point actually, before we go, actually, Tanya, we'll leave it for a moment. I think the first poll we'll do in a moment. I'll take everybody through this process first. And just as a reminder, so with Clarity, it's built mobile first. So it works on all devices, your mobile, your tablet, and your laptop or desktop. It connects to clouds I mentioned, so to QuickBooks and to Xero, and you can manually enter the numbers as well. So these are the 7 key numbers. So you can get a copy of these slides. So you can see what the 7 key numbers are. And as I mentioned, if you wanted to get more information, you can register for a more detailed demo, where I go into this in a bit more detail. And you can get to understand where the business wants to get to. So it's that, where are you now? Where do you want to be? You can start that business advisory conversation. I mentioned we'll come back to this point. This was the really key point from that, because that particular number, when that figure pops up, so in our example, when we were looking just now, it's 45K. With this, that allows you to then position your services and price it as well, so that you can then say, well, to this particular client, it could be that they need a certain set of services. Let's say they need a cash flow statement, they need a budget, they need quarterly meetings, they need help being held accountable, and so on. Let's just say, for argument's sake, you would then be able to, if you're using pricing software, obviously you can go off and use the pricing software and the proposal software, but that 45K or that 23 that's currently on the screen, it helps you to set an understanding of what value the business owner is going to get. They can clearly see that if you're saying to them, I can help you achieve this in 6 months or 12 months or whatever the time frame would be, they can see that they're going to be getting 45K back, and every year if they maintain that business and those improvements. So it's not unrealistic for you to say, well, the price of that will be £500 a month or $500 a month, whatever it would be, because that's a realistic return on investment for them. But they can actually see it. So they don't have to think about it. They can actually see it. So it helps you position your firm differently as well, potentially, to other firms out there. And again, you can use this with your prospects. You don't have to use this just with your existing client base. You can actually use this with your prospective clients. So instead of giving away all of your IP for free that we all do in the initial meeting, what you can do is get access to their QuickBooks data or their annual accounts, plug the figures in, and then take them through the story with Clarity and show them how you can help them and the types of results that you can help them get. And that's a very different position to how most accountants and bookkeepers and advisors position themselves in that initial meeting. So you get to get paid for your IP without giving it away. I'm sure you still help them anyway, but you're just setting the benchmark. You're just explaining, this is how we can help you. This is what we can do for you, and this is how we can help you. And at the same time, it allows you to segment your client base. So what happens there is that some of our member firms, what they do is they put all of their clients onto Clarity when they first sign up. And then they go through, a junior member of their team will go through Clarity, or all of their client base, and find the ones, so they put either a 3% or a 5% improvement for all of the clients. And they'll look at the ones that have the biggest gains, the top 10%. The clients that they should be speaking to anyway, the ones that they feel would benefit the most from this, they segment them off as well. And then what they're able to do is then say, well, actually, these clients, so let's talk in pounds for the moment, as just the bracket of currency that I'm familiar with. If let's say up to £20,000 worth of improvement, let's say that it's going to be a junior member of the team that actually helps that client. And if it's anywhere between £20,000 to £60,000 worth of improvement, then it may be middle management, someone more senior in the firm who will then be able to help that client move forward. And then if it's of over £60,000 worth of improvement, then it would be the senior manager, like the high level, the senior advisors, the partners, the directors, the leadership team, those that will be getting involved in that for those clients. But by going through all of the clients and segmenting in that way, and then prioritizing as well, if you wanted to prioritize it based on feel for the client or based on the improvements, you can then make sure that everybody within the team is playing their part and that you're speaking to the right clients at the right time. So it's a great tool for enabling you to help segment your clients. So it's a bit like ABCD clients when you do that type of thing, segmenting your client base. And yeah, that's the key point I wanted to mention here. It helps from segmentation, from pricing and promotion and position, because it's clear as financially quantifiable value proposition. What that means in English is it's very clear what the client is going to get in return for the price that they're going to pay. So it sets that expectation. They understand exactly what it is that they're going to get. So yeah, you can see it helps get with a clear strategy with the action plan, as well as with the document section as well. And that information can be verified on blockchain, so the data is safe and secure. It's the timestamp effectively that goes across blockchain. And what that does, it shows an audit trail. So when investors are looking, or solicitors are doing due diligence, or your lender is looking, they can see that the information was built up over time, rather than just being done last week before you asked for the money. Again, that's the reminder of the 7 business assets. I'm just going to fly through these ones just to get back to where I wanted to be. The other thing we've got in there is an advisor university coming soon as well. Tanya, I think it's probably a good idea now to do the first poll. If we could do the first poll with regards to business advisory and what people, where people are at with that, would be really helpful.
All right, so I'm just launching it right now. So do you deliver business advisory series? So your answers are no, we are compliance only, a little to some clients with compliance, some to all of our clients, and yes, we have business advisory department. Keep in mind, you must answer both polls to be able to receive your CEC credit for this webinar. So we're at 66% right now. So we'll give a few more minutes. Again, there's no right or wrong answer. Just repeat it one more time while we give a few more minutes for the last 3 or 4 people to vote. Do you deliver business advisory services? No, we are compliance only, a little to some clients with compliance, some to all our clients, and yes, we have a business advisory department. So we'll give 5 more seconds here. 4, 3, 2, 1. Closing the poll. And I'll just launch the results here. So you can see that 11% are compliance only, 50 to 6 are, some to clients with a little compliance, 28% are some, a little bit to all of their clients basically, and 6% say yes, they have a business advisory department.
Brilliant. I mean, that's great. Really interesting statistics there to show from the attendees. And the interesting thing is, regardless of, we're working with top 60 accounting firms in the UK, but we're also working with one-man bands or sole practitioners. And so it depends where you are in your journey as to how Clarity is going to fit and how it can actually help you. But the clear indication there is business advisory is important, and we need to be able to deliver as much of that to our business clients as possible, but also in a profitable way. So we're a business at the end of the day as well. We need to be able to make sure that we're utilizing the right team members at the right place, so that we can then make it more affordable for 80% of the client base is typical in the UK that doesn't get any business advisory services whatsoever. Only that top 20% can, because they can either afford it or they understand why the benefit is so useful to have it.
Yep.
Cool. Thank you very much, Tanya. We'll jump into the second poll shortly. I'm aware of the time, so I'm going to whiz through these next few slides. So there was an article done in Accounting Today. This was almost a year ago now, but I think it's still going to be relevant, given where things have changed in the last year. That you can see on the screen the top 5 things that SMEs are looking for from their accountant. Accounts and tax returns aren't listed there, as you'd expect, but for us to be able to deliver all of these things, it's a challenge to be able to do that for every single client, to deliver all of those 5 things. And the only way that we can do that is by leveraging technology to get that to do the heavy lifting, but then empowering our team to be able to deliver all of those 5 things. So it's team and technology which are the way to enable us to help deliver what SMEs actually want from their accountant. So just a synopsis roundup here of the benefits of Clarity, and we'll get more into some of the other how-tos. So for business owners, it helps them make better decisions because they're using good information to make data-driven decisions, have a clear plan, everything's all in one place, understand the numbers, you can get access to cash. For the accounting, bookkeeper, and advisors, there's no time-consuming setup. It's cloud software. It works pretty much straight out of the box. Obviously, if you'd like help and to get to utilize it as much as possible, then we're here to help. And we have different advisor levels to help with that as well. But you can pretty much pick it up and run with it from the get-go, because there's an automatic flow. It's numbers-led. It's very simple to get on with and use with the clients. In addition to that, it creates additional revenue. We'll go through that in a moment in terms of how you can actually structure your packages and price them. And it'll help build better relationships because, as I mentioned, there might be some clients that aren't getting business advisory. So now that they are, so there's no risk of them leaving to get it from somewhere else potentially. But the ones that are having business advisory conversations already, it can help bring in the other team members again. So it helps create stickier relationships with the client. And most importantly, it cascades everything down the ranks, so your frontline team can get involved in delivering business advisory services, helps them feel that they're more involved with the clients as well, and then you can scale it up. So that enables you to actually scale business advisory services. And then for the lender and investors, you get more reliable information, reduce cost of due diligence, and they can get in earlier and get a better ROI. Now, what we wanted to do, understanding what business advisory is, we come up with these 5 different levels. So you can see on the screen what they are. I won't go into too much detail here. Again, if you want to go into more detail with these, then please sign up to the other web event that we'll be running next week, which Tanya will be able to provide details of for you. But you can see that there's 5 different steps. It's clearly 5 different steps there, working down from consulting, if you like, because when you speak to most people, when I've spoken to accountants and bookkeepers about business advisory, the instant reaction is to jump to this consultancy piece, the top of the pyramid, say, but I'm not a consultant. But then there's lots of other different areas where you can actually help. And just that awareness piece is hugely valuable. And I think we underestimate the power that we have as accountants and bookkeepers to help clients, just helping them understand where they are with the numbers and then holding them accountable. Those are really important pieces in the foundation levels of business advisory. So we actually have an advisory framework that helps from when you start working with a client all the way through to helping them exit or get maximum value. Again, I won't go through that in detail. And also an advisory process, which you can go in as little or as light as possible. And you can see from the screen that there's stuff in here that's not that difficult. It's fairly straightforward and simple to be able to implement. And again, I'll go through these in more detail another time. What I wanted to show you is how you could then start to use Clarity. And here we have what we call Advisory 1.0. So you bring in the data, from bank feeds, from your receipt capture software, put it into QuickBooks, put it into Xero or manual entry, and then you can get onto what we call a starter level for Clarity, which is that numbers section that we went through earlier. And anyone in your team can be able to do that. So it could be the junior members that are doing it for your clients, or if a manager or partner on the fly preparing for a meeting. So with that starter element alone, you can prepare the awareness and accountability piece of the 5 levels of advisory. With Advisory 2.0, we're getting a little bit more in-depth here, a little bit more involved. So we're probably going to include some of the more senior members of the team. We're going to be connecting to other apps. So your Futureleads, your Floats, your Fathoms, your Fluidly's and Capitalize and so on, to be able to give better insight and be able to plan better for your clients so they can make more informed decisions, and you're helping them interpret the numbers better and then comparing their plans to actual, so just holding them accountable again, but in a more detailed way. And again, the managers and partners might get involved at the higher end, or they might not, but the likelihood is the junior members of the team would do the starter analysis type work, and then the more senior members of the team will jump in with working with the other apps. Now with Advisory 3.0, what you would be doing here is then connecting all of those other apps in the ecosystem and then focusing on consulting, which typically in firms is done by the leaders, by the partners and the more senior managers. And you can use your own process for doing that, or you can use the same one that we have within Clarity now building out in the Advisor University. So here's a bit that most people like to get involved with. It's how can you price this and package it up? So you can see what we've done here on the screen, and you'll get a copy of these slides as well so you can pour over it in a bit more detail, is that we've created some packages together so that you can then see how from some suggestions in terms of using Clarity, how you can then deliver those 5 levels of advisory. So you can see, as an example of just that awareness piece, if you ran through that 7 key numbers section twice a year with a client, and then potentially gave them a support call, access to a support call once a month to help them be able to improve their business and leave them to their own devices and let them do it on their own. You can do that very easily with the starter level within Clarity, and there's prices that we've got in here. What I would suggest starting at, I was speaking to a firm the other day. They said, "Oh, I'd be more than double that." I said, "Well, it's great. That's for you and your client base." But what we're doing here is potentially for some firms is that they're not doing any advisory yet, as we saw from the poll. That some are just looking to get into it. So this will help to build your confidence and then say, well, actually, we'll start at this level. This is where we're going to go from here. For those already in advisory and have advisory departments, then yeah, you can see that how you can easily make this profitable with your junior members of the team, and you can price this however you wanted to as well. But you can see for each level, there's different areas of where you can get involved and to be able to help. And what we're saying is if you're new to advisory, or if it's the first time that you're going to be scaling it throughout your team, cascading it down the team, that you focus on 2 packages rather than all 5. So you're looking at accountability and planning. So here you might have a monthly accountability call and do the 7 key numbers twice a year with the client and help them to achieve their tasks and focus on doing what they're supposed to. You can start that off for Canada $297 or for US $237, and then planning is a bit more involved with quarterly meetings, with using other apps potentially here as well. That's where the signpost to 2.0 comes in. You can then start using budgetary and cash flow forecasting and KPIs and so on to help improve the business, give them better insight and so on. And this next slide just shows how Clarity fits into each of those elements, and so that you can then start to be able to build out your packages and pricing, and then start delivering this to your clients as well and helping them to be able to move forward. We have different advisor programs, as you'd anticipate, with the different levels. So just to give you an example for US partners, these are the prices, and what we do is we structure include certain elements of licenses based on the research that we've done with our community, where they would like to be and how they'd like to scale up. And there's loads of different benefits included as well. So the further you go up, like with anything, the further you go up, like with QuickBooks and Xero, the more benefits that you get. And we've got the Canadian one there as well, just for completeness, so that you can see everything as well. So those are the 2 versions of this is the first version, sorry, of being able to get involved with Clarity, is you jump onto a partner program and then really start to hit the ground running, basically jumping into a program, advisor program, so we can then help you as much as possible to get the best out of it. But the alternative is that you do free-form pricing, And you can see this is the US pricing. You can see that you can then add your clients slowly. So you can start with 10 and then just start to have those conversations. And once you're comfortable with those 10, you can add another 10 and so on and so on. So it's up to you. It's completely up to you how you want to get involved with Clarity, whether that's, you know, at the hare pace or whether it's at the tortoise pace, not turtle, whichever works best for you. There's no judgment. It's whatever works best for you. There's no right or wrong. You can see as well that the pricing for adding clients onto the essentials, so they get access to the data room, that strategic plan framework in the business university. There is an additional price for those clients, and the more clients you have, the more discount you get, as you saw on the advisor tab. But for starter clients, there's no additional cost for them. So you can see the US and Canadian dollars step there. So it would probably be a good time now, actually, Tanya, to do the second poll. We can do that before we start to wrap up.
All right. Let's see here. There's actually just, okay, before I bring up the poll, because this is something that there is a question here. So maybe actually right after the poll, maybe we can address that. So I'll pop the poll
absolutely.
first. Okay, and polls. Poll 2. Okay, so how do you speak to your clients about numbers? I don't. At year-end accountants meetings, ad hoc during the year or when they ask, using existing in-house systems and processes, and proactively on monthly, quarterly calls or management accounts using dashboards, budgets, cash flows, and external apps and reporting tools. So again, just a reminder, both the first and the second question must be answered in order to receive the CEC credits. So we'll just give this a few more minutes. So just again, how do you speak to your clients about numbers? I don't. At year-end accountants meetings, ad hoc during the year or when they ask, using existing in-house systems and processes, or proactively on monthly or quarterly calls or management accounts using dashboards, budgets, cash flows, and external apps and reporting tools. So we'll just give 5 more seconds here. 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll end the poll. Share the results so you can see that 0% don't, which is a good thing. Everybody's at least trying a little bit. We've got 5% that does at year-end accounts meetings. 53% is ad hoc during the year or when they ask. 32% is using existing in-house systems and processes. And 11% are proactive on monthly, quarterly calls or management accounts and using dashboards, budgets, cash flows, and external apps or reporting tools.
It's a similar split actually from the first question in terms of the results. So that's really interesting to see, and it's great that everybody is speaking to their clients about numbers. And the reason why this question is really interesting as well is where to take the journey, as well as talking about the tortoise and the hare there in terms of how quickly firms get involved with Clarity. It's also important to understand what's your existing relationship with your client base, because you need to be able to build that within your existing systems. So as I mentioned before, you can set up proactive calls and meetings with your clients if you put everybody through it and picked out the ones that you wanted to do that with. But a better way to make it easier for the teams to build confidence and easier for the clients, so that they're seeing this as something that's not completely new, and that they're comfortable with what's going on, is using your existing meetings and using your existing calls to be able to do it. So it has to fit with how you want to run your business. Now, if you're going for widespread change, fantastic. Just jump in with both feet and get going. But yeah, play to your strengths and build your team's confidence. If they're not there yet, help them to build their confidence. And of course, the conversation with a partner versus a junior member of the team are going to be very different, but it's still going to be adequate. It will be more than enough to deliver something from a junior member of the team to a client, using that systemized numbers-led process to be able to help the client and just help hold them accountable. It will be more than enough from that junior members of the team, and it's priced accordingly as well. You know, a price of a partner's team or a leader's team is very different for the price of a junior member's time as well. You
Yeah.
had a question, Tanya.
Yeah, so it's actually from Dominique, and she's actually just made a quick comment that she talks numbers and metrics at every meeting, but she uses very simple numbers and ratios to educate those who are very financial, like financial ratios and statement phobic. But she needs to educate them at their pace, depending on their desires and willingness. So, I mean, that's great. So she's, maybe if they're not ready for it, she's just talking a little bit with just little drabs and sprinkles, right? Which is still quite important because we know the clients need to know this. So she had just made that comment.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's great. It's great that
Yeah.
she's doing that.
So the question that she had too was, it says, I work mostly with services-based owner-operators or micro-family corporations with 2 to 4 employees. In most cases, these business owners migrated employee to business owner without really understanding even the basics, such as cash in bank does not equal profit, or does cash in bank equal excess cash flow. In most cases, the very basics are most critical, such as profit per client, profit per job, revenue per employee, profit per employee, cash flow needs, cash flow planning. After that, they need systems. So your app looks wonderful. She says, however, am I correct in assuming that Clarity best suits a more mature or larger firm? If Clarity does help the owner operator with 1 employee up to 5 employees, then how? And what are the ideal Clarity advisory client characteristics? For example, annual revenue threshold, how many employees, what type of industries, and how would this fit a services-based firm? So there's a lot in there.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So when we built Clarity, we had it in mind that we'll help businesses from 250 in terms of revenue in GBP, 250K up to about 10 million probably, because after that they have an FD and it's not going to be much help from the advisor, the accountant. But what happened is when we went into some firms, we were in a top 60 accounting firm a few weeks ago, and one of the advisors, they actually put the date, we did it live together just to see what would happen, and we worked through with their team to make sure that they know what to do and how to use things, as being one of our partner advisors. What actually happened was they put a business in that had 80K's worth of revenue. So very small in the UK, that's below the VAT, the sales tax threshold. And what blew my mind was that with very small improvements, 2% here, 5% there, they were able to improve that business by 20K, 20K profit. They were able to have, so that's like a quarter of their revenue. They were able to make an improvement there, which is just phenomenal with small improvements. So it's definitely for those types of businesses that you were talking about in your question. So remember, this isn't an app to give to your client necessarily. This is an app for you and your team to use to be able to have the conversation around business advisory. So remember, business advisory, what we're doing here is simplifying it into its purest sense, which is, where are you now? Where would you like to get to? And how do we help you bridge that gap? And that's what that numbers section is. So you can run through that with any of your clients. And then I would say just connect the data. You have a free 14-day trial. So it gets us to a good recommended action section. You have a free 14-day trial. Stick 10 clients on and see how you get on with those 10 clients with making those small improvements. So for a wide range of your client base, let's say for argument's sake, there are different sizes, and see what it looks like. And then what you have then is the opportunity to start that discussion. So you can either do that for free or as a one-off meeting for an extra price, or as I mentioned, include that in what you're already doing. If you're meeting a client over the next week or so, do it for those clients and see how the conversation goes. But the point is, it's helping your team to be able to start delivering some business advisory services. So looking at those 5 levels of business advisory, that awareness piece is so important. And then the next is accountability, the insight stuff. So that's what you were talking about there, was delivering more insight to the client, helping them understand and educate. So that's further up the chain from a business advisory perspective. What we're saying is you can go even simpler than that, and in a way that the business owner would be able to understand it as well. And then there's planning and consulting on top of there. So you need to be able to start at the bottom for the right clients as well, work your way up and start having those conversations. So if it's just you in the firm, then this will help you to be able to build the confidence and give you a structure to be able to speak to your clients. And if you have team members, again, it's the same process. You can then get them involved and then you can start to charge for their time, obviously, which is more affordable for the client, and that just makes it more profitable for everybody. Your firm's more profitable, your team are more engaged, so then their relationship's more profitable, and then your client's actually making more money and improving. I mean, there is probably, someone said to me before, oh, what if my client doesn't want to improve or grow their business? And I said, well, some businesses won't want to grow, but they'd certainly want to improve. So if you could tell them that they're leaving money on the table, let's say 5 to 10K on the table, I'm sure they'd want to know about it, and that at least have the conversation with them, so you're not making a judgment without their decision. Basically, you're getting them to decide whether they want to have that extra money or not.
Right. Okay. And sorry, Dominique, just because it ties into something you've just recently said. So she just wants to clarify. So am I correct that this big picture overview with the framework, am I correct that this is a big picture overview with the framework for advisory conversations?
Absolutely, yeah. So it's about being able to have a conversation with your client about growing and improving their business, and then using we already have the skill set. As we said, the superhero of the story is us, it's the accountants. I sort of refer to us as an accountant, but you know what I mean. I'm the app provider now, but we have that ability to be, with the skill set we have and the knowledge we have of numbers, we can help clients regardless of our business experience or business acumen, just to be able to interpret the numbers for them and show them what's possible and hold them accountable. You know, anyone could do that if they actually care about their clients. Then that is a hugely valuable service that your clients will pay for, and they are already paying for. It's definitely the way to either introduce a business advisory services for those that haven't yet, or create a more systemized approach and scale it down as well, the ranks in your team, to be able to utilize their time and help those clients that aren't getting as much as they would like, or as much as you would like. Cool. Thanks, Tanya. Well, just to wrap up with those last recommendations, is once you've started that conversation, is to then have a discussion with them about how you can help them with this ongoing. And we'd recommend then suggesting the accountability package just as a minimum. If it's the right type of client, you can do the planning one, as we said, with those 2 packages. And then that will help. We've calculated this based on the 10 clients, you're going to get at least a 3,000% ROI for the firm on the cost. Obviously, there's some time for your team involved in that as well. But so it's going to be highly profitable for you to be able to deliver this. And then just rinse and repeat, add another 10 and go on like that. So that would be the recommended actions. Or if you want to go guns blazing, to have a conversation with us, and we can help you get onto an advisor program and provide the relevant support that you would like, so you can get going a little bit quicker and help with that.
Okay, so sorry. So Dominique has just said thank you for your reply. It was totally on point for her, so that's great.
Cool. Good.
And then
Welcome.
Mildred says, so it looks like Clarity is linked to our QBOA. So how can she use it for clients outside of her QBO wholesale account? So maybe she's got a client in like QuickBooks Desktop or on, Sage or in some other format, or maybe that she's just consulting and they're not added into her wholesale account list.
Yeah, so what you can do is add the clients in manually. So it does, at the moment, as Tanya was saying, we started in May this year, so when we launched. So we're still developing partnerships with and APIs with other software. But at the moment, what you can do, so for QBO or QB Desktop, or for Sage, or whoever else it would be, if you take either their annual set of accounts or their most recent management accounts, you can enter the details manually. It takes 10 minutes at the most to enter 17 numbers for the current period and the comparative period, and then you'll get the same information as you would if you connected it to QuickBooks Online.
Okay, great. All right, so one thing that Dominique has mentioned is an Excel or CSV input would be helpful as well.
Not at the moment. Yeah, not at the moment. Our CTO was dead against that. He was worried that things would go wrong
Okay.
by importing things, but we are listening to our community. So we actually have made a lot of improvements or recommended changes already based on what the community have been saying. So if that's something that's come up on another webinar. So if the community keep asking for that, then we will do that. But at the moment, it's just one at a time manual entry. But someone in your team can do it. Takes 10 minutes at the most, maybe with over a glass of wine or something, and then you're done.
I would say now, what's going to happen is that, help button or feedback button or support button is going to get inundated now with.
Well, we want to hear. So we're grateful for the feedback. Absolutely. If you're part of the community and your opinion's important. So absolutely, we're grateful for that.
Awesome. Okay. Doesn't look like there's, there's another one. So how are periods set? So I have some clients with whom I meet monthly, others quarterly, others semi-annually, and can Clarity accommodate these?
Yeah, so what we wanted to do is make it as simple as possible. So what we're doing is we're annualizing the data. So that's why you choose, if you remember, you may not remember, when we were in Clarity, we chose the month to which we know the figures were finalized. And then when you set up the company on Clarity, you enter in what their year-end month is. And then that system can then calculate what the annualized figure is. Because at the end of the day, this is a conversation starter. It doesn't need to be exact to the penny. What we're doing is showing what is possible, where things are now, and what is possible with the business. So you could use this quarterly with your clients. You could use it 6 monthly or annually. I would probably say 6 monthly would be the best approach at a minimum. Quarterly could work really well. But the idea is then you just click the finalized figure, finalized month again, and it will recalculate the numbers so you can see where things are at for that business, whether it's improved or not. And then also about where they actually are in relation to their journey. So it doesn't work in the way where you enter the monthly figures. And how it works is it takes whatever the figures are that are finalized, and then it will annualize that. Because it was we played with how we could do this with monthly or quarterly or 6 monthly figures, but it just got too complicated. So we wanted to strip it back and make it as simple as possible.
Okay. And then another question is there advisory training in the partner program?
So what we actually have, there is advisory training. We have lots of support as well. We have loads and loads of content. I mean, just have a look at our YouTube channel. So let me jump to, have we got it on here? Don't know if we have actually, but if you go to our website, so clarity-hq.com, you'll be able to see our social media footer links. Go and look at our YouTube channel. We have loads of content, loads of webinars to be able to help. But if you're part of the advisor program, you will certainly help. Help your team, help you, help your team, help with packaging and pricing and conversation with clients. So depending how far up the advisory program you go, we'll certainly be there to actually help you implement this. Because ultimately our aim, our goal is to help make small business owners more successful, because we know if they have a better business, they have a better life, we can help to create a better world. And that knock-on effect, it will be massive throughout the world, and accountants and bookkeepers can make that happen. So by us helping accountants, bookkeepers, and advisors, we're then helping, who are small business owners themselves, by the way, are also helping the small business owners they look after. So that's ultimately what we're looking for. So we're doing whatever we can to help you. So yeah, be more than delighted to have a conversation, or if you wanted to sign up for the other webinar for next week.
Okay, so then just another few clarifications. So is there and again, this might be something that you maybe haven't thought of yet, because again, newly being launched, but is there a Clarity community? So for example, Thompson Reuters has a year-long program based on Excel only to coach advisory. And it looks like this program, maybe she's saying afterwards that it does include community support. So it looks like she was looking it up. So does this program, you obviously include a lot of community support. You're on the websites, you're the Facebook pages, I see that, but is there a Clarity community out there somewhere?
There is, yeah, there's a secret community. So once you're in the community, there's a secret Facebook group that you get access to, and that you get your dedicated account manager as well. And because Ainsley and myself are from the accounting space and we've lived and breathed business advisory, we know how to help, what the three most important things for you to be able to do. With regards to your situation, because every accounting firm is slightly different, and bookkeeping firm depending on the team you have, the clients you have, the journey that you're on. So we can help with that. But we certainly have a community as well, and it's building all the time.
Okay, so another question here. So just again, Thomson Reuters includes community support and an accounting advisory one-on-one support. So do you have something similar, or is it just the community support?
So yeah, it depends. It depends where you are in the advisor partner program. So the higher you go, the more support you get, basically. But everyone gets the basic support to be able to actually deliver this.
Okay.
But the higher up you go, the more help you're going to get. There's not a specific program. When you first start, the Advisor University that we're building is from our own IP that we had in our own accounting firms, which will be going into the platform. It's still being built at the moment, so that will be there to help in the future. But if there's anything that people need help with, we're more than happy to help. There's no problem at all.
Okay, so I think, yeah, just his final comment was, again, going back to the Thomson Reuters, that it's the one-on-one is basically, it's all about how to apply the tools and have conversations on a case by case, because of course it's a journey. So it sounds like you guys will be open, again, depending on the situation for that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's a simple operating system. So once you go through it once, the confidence builds, because as I mentioned, it's numbers led. We're all familiar with numbers. And it's a system, so you can't really do it any other way. So as you go through that process and you get familiar with it, and then you start having conversations with your clients with it, getting your team using it and getting them to have conversations with the clients, then it builds from there. And then it taps into your own existing framework as well that you have. And if you don't have one, then that's something that we can help with too.
All right, perfect. Okay, so that seems to be all the questions. So that's great. I do have the deck. Oh no, there's more. Just a comment. The coaching is about the wording, feelings, and approach, because numbers are simple for us. Yep. No, that's I think exactly what you're.
Yeah, that's the superpower we have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Perfect. So I've got the deck for this. So the deck will be sent out with the email. It will go out sometime within the next 2 business days. When I had it as one, apparently one had gone out at some point. I think it was the one for the boot campers, so the general public wasn't affected, but it went out without the link because it went out almost immediately. I guess when you say one day, it can go out anywhere from 5 minutes to 24 hours. So this will go sometime within the next 2 days with the link to the recording, as well as there's a couple of different website links to go to, one with the webinar that you provided for another in-depth webinar, as well as the slides for the deck for the slides. Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if anybody would like to have a more in-depth view at Clarity, to see what more, get under the hood a little bit more, or has any more questions that they would like answered, or just to go through it again, then feel free to sign up. It'd be a pleasure to see you next week.
Perfect. Okay, well, thank you very much, Stephen. It's been great, and I apologize for the whole Canada thing. So at least I know for Wednesday you are from the UK, not from Canada.
That's
I'll just
no
go
worries.
with what the accent says instead of, and I don't know why I thought that you were Alberta based. I don't know. I think when it first came out, somebody had said that, and I just kind of stuck with that. So
okay, well, that'll be the office coming next year, so it'll be right then.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right. Well, again, thank you very much. It was greatly informative and wonderful. Hope everybody learned something on it. We've got a few people saying thank you. So Carrie's, thank you for such a great session, and huge thank you in all caps there. Nadine says thank you. So yeah, definitely really great and informative. And that's awesome.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for the opportunity, Tanya. Really appreciate it. And thanks to your community as well for attending. It was a pleasure. Great questions. And
perfect.
Yeah, hope to see you again soon.
All right. So we'll see everybody else next Monday, and we will see you on Wednesday then, Stephen.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
cheers.
thanks. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.